You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of truth, a dimension of freedom, a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
What is up? Hey, now I'm surprised at that opening. Michael did not tell me they were going to do the opening, so I'm really happy to see it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and the vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who also has his own great show, also called the Rational Egoist. Michael, anything going on the Rational Egoist that we should be aware of?
No, not for a couple weeks. My producer's on some kind of I don't want to call it a vacation, a business meeting. So it's going to be a couple weeks. I've already got 2 interviews, though, that are in the queue, as you like to say, that are ready to come out. One is I interviewed the guy who we talked about his 20 questions or 20 statements that everybody should know about economics. And another one is another guy whose article we talked about, who said that people who see themselves as victims are prone to conspiracy beliefs. Both very, very good interviews, and I should have some more. So once Xenia gets back, I will be releasing a bunch.
Also, people who see themselves as victims tend to be communists, but we will talk about that at a later date. Folks, I just want to remind you that we are not affiliated with the Capitalist Party, even though both of us are the chair and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party. What we say here are strictly our own perspectives. Today is Q&A Friday, folks, so I hope you brought your questions, and I hope we have answers. We usually do. We also have a series of articles we can talk about. I think we have a question already queued up, Michael, so it's not even...
I do want to address something, though, with you. Right?
Wait,
I just want the audience...
Is this going to be a critique?
It is, because I want the audience to understand what that which with I am dealing, right? So I sent the article.
No, wait a minute. I know where you're going.
Okay, well, that's the problem. I send him these articles. Now, one of the article had to do with immigration. There was a quick blurb about a new study, and it talked about immigration statistics. Now, attached to that was a 17-page PDF that I did not want Mark to read because, first of all, I didn't read it. Secondly, it's 17 pages, and it was unnecessary.
You didn't read it.
No, and I told him in the text, you don't have to read this PDF. An hour or so later, I get a text that says, I can't read that PDF. It's too long. Yeah, that's why I told you don't read it.
I said, I know you told me don't read it.
Then why would you tell me you can't read it if I never told you to read it?
To save this exact thing that is happening right now, you busting my balls on the air for not reading something. I just let you know.
I told you not to read it.
We're already bickering, and we haven't even been 2 minutes into the show, Michael. So let's not bicker. Let's answer this urgent question from Nicole. Shall I read it or shall you?
You shall.
Because I have the Urkel glasses on, so I will read it because now I can actually see. The question from Nicole is a statement and a question. First of all, prohibiting guns for transgender people is a bad idea. For those of you who do not know, of course, the recent spate of mass shootings have been transgender folks who have killed some kids in mostly religious schools or religious institutions. And the Trump Department of Justice is floating the trial balloon of banning transgender people from owning guns. So Nicole is responding to that little news item. Prohibiting guns for transgender people is a bad idea. With this, I have to agree. That precedent should not be set. Of course, the precedent of controlling guns anyway, for lots of reasons that seem arbitrary, has already been set. So that's unfortunate. It is abhorrent. I agree with you. That being said, it is comical watching people on the left who usually scream for gun bans suddenly defending the Second Amendment. Are they? Have you been watching these people defending the Second Amendment, Michael?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Because it
who? I was reading the commie comments. I'm sorry. I get distracted.
Okay, so I now, Nicole, you'll have to be a little more specific because I haven't I've been away from the news for the last week because I was working, so I haven't seen any of these things. But I do love to see both the left and the right go through their mental and spiritual contortions to demonize the other side and hold positions that they were opposed to the previous administration, just because it happens to now the power levers are against them, so they're hypocritically taking up the other side. They look like clowns, of course they do. The left has demonized the Second Amendment for decades, and suddenly they've discovered the beauty of gun rights. Thoughts? Well, Michael, this is just tribalism as usual. We see this now with the First Amendment, with the property rights, with the control of corporations by the right now, and their lack of respect for the Constitution, and nobody on the right coming forward because their guy has the levers of power, so they're going to support that tribe as opposed to the ideas that are supposed to animate their group. What do you say?
Well, I saw this a couple times yesterday on X, posted by I believe, what's his name there with the stupid beanie? Oh, Tim Pool. Tim Pool posted about it. The Daily Wire posted about it, and I have seen the contortions that the MAGA-verse has been in trying to justify this. It's justified because the trans are mentally ill. I've also seen the old, this is just 4D chess. Trump is just trying to get the people on the left to come out in support of gun rights. All codswallop, and we know that. We know it because in his last term, Trump actually proposed that we could take guns from mentally ill people or people that we thought were dangerous without due process. So this doesn't surprise me at all. It's utterly ridiculous. And the fact that these people come out now in favor of it is, it's par for the course because, they're buying stakes in private companies. They're putting pressure on the Fed. They're raising taxes in terms of tariffs. So why should it surprise us?
Right. I mean, yeah. Basically, when one side gets the levers of power, they will do what they say they're against, primarily. Speaking of which, I wanted to get into a little of the hypocrisy of the state of Florida, because they're going to become one of the first states that's going to actually ban vaccine mandates, which is a step towards liberty. It's something that I could say as a capitalist, as a lover of freedom, I don't think that the government should mandate anything, particularly with respect to health. It's not their responsibility. Your health is your responsibility. If you're a child, your health is your parents' responsibility. And they shouldn't mandate what goes into your body at all. But at the same time, they're planning on linking this to an anti-discrimination laws, which would make it impossible for an employer to discriminate against somebody who is anti-vax. So on the one hand, they're taking a step towards freedom, and then on the other hand, taking that back by taking the freedom of choice away from those who do believe that vaccinations are a good thing and that maybe it's not very safe to associate with people who are unvaccinated. What say you about this contradictory bit of information coming out of Florida? It seems par for the course for Republicans. I'm going to save my dog.
Well, Deeper with Diego says in Florida, when your child is born, you can opt out of every single vaccine. The state does not force anything on you. From what I could see, there's religious exemptions and things of that nature, but they do mandate it for going to school. But Diego says no. But at any rate, the problem is well, the DA or the attorney general there from the state he criticizes the COVID vaccine. He comes out, he says it's so dangerous, so he's obviously out there. And then of course you have Ron DeSantis, who wants to ban lab grown meat in his state. Heaven forbid if people should be growing their own meat, but they come out and, this is a liberty issue. But this is what we run into, Mark, all the time is this contradiction on top of contradiction from everybody, because what they do not have is a, integrated view of philosophy, of rights, of politics. Diego says mandate vaccine for going to school is not an actual mandate. Well, you have to send your kids to school unless you can homeschool them. Not everybody can do it. Diego, I mean, really, I don't know, bud. It's mandated if you want to send your kids to school. So we can quibble about whether that's an actual mandate or not, but it certainly, if kids have to go to some sort of school and parents can't afford to either homeschool them or private school them, then it seems to me you're in a mandate situation.
Yeah, Diego, schooling is mandatory for children in America, unfortunately.
Diego says it's not mandatory for kids in Florida to go to school. I don't know. I've never heard that of any state in the country, so I don't know.
We'll ask Grok, but I wanted to. Did you want to continue with the hypocrisies? Because I was.
No, you go with the hypocrisies, and I'll do a search.
Because the hypocrisy just occurred to me how great GMOs are for the environment, and yet how everybody on the left is against GMOs. I mean, when you think about being able to engineer food in labs, engineer beef in labs, just let's take beef for example. When you think about the amount of resources it takes just to feed cows, to fatten them up, to get them ready, prepared for slaughter, all of that land, all of that water, all of those grains, all of that grass, all of that methane in the air that they're so worried about, that's going to cause global warming, raise the oceans by an inch in the next century, that they're so frightened of, all of that would disappear with lab-grown meat. And you save resources instantaneously, and yet the left is against them. Seeds that can grow food in areas that are blighted, or grow more crops using less land, and yet the left is against them. So yeah, folks, since they don't have any integrated philosophy, they might have the left, for example, I think has a basically anti-industrialist, anti-Western sort of bent. So whatever seems to progress man, they look at as a sort of Frankenstein's monster that has to be exorcised from society. Go ahead.
So Greg Lewis has posted exactly what I just found. And it says that, yes, in Florida, education is mandatory for children. According to Florida statutes, Section 1003.21, children ages 6 to 16 are required to attend school regularly during the entire school term. This can be satisfied through public school, private school, homeschooling, or other approved educational programs. Parents or guardians are responsible for ensuring compliance. So again, if you can't afford to send your child to a private school, or you can't afford to homeschool them, then you have a mandate of the vaccine. Now we have
but Michael, imagine how accessible and affordable education would be if it were privatized, how innovative it would be if people didn't have to go to brick and mortar schools in a district that was bad, but they could learn over the computer. I know I can learn almost any subject, any language I want to for maybe $150. And imagine if this type of technology were made accessible across the board. Imagine that any kid could learn, pretty much could become an expert in any topic that their parents wanted them to become an expert in. There could be great developmental curricula out there if schools are privatized and innovation was allowed to seep into the educational establishment, and maybe seemingly paradoxically, if education wasn't mandatory, right? I think parents would probably make the decisions in their child's best interest to send them to educational institutions that would best advance their interests in life, which could be across a variety of, right? That means some children may go to technical schools, some children may go to schools that focus simply on STEM, some may be liberal arts professors, but there would be a variety of places, choices for parents to have that are not open to them today under the standard one-size-fits-all curriculum.
So Ian Gilmore says you can opt out of public school in almost all states. That doesn't change the stupidity of dropping the vaccine mandates based on junk science. I agree, and this is why we're talking about how it stems from a non-integrated view, and why they end up with all these contradictions. Nevertheless, I think it's a good idea to not have mandates. Now, Diego is absolutely insistence in this, but he is just, I don't know, like, what is your point here is, Diego. He says in Florida, when your child is born, you can opt out of all vaccines and you don't have to spend a second in public school. Yes, Diego, we've already said that multiple times. I mean, so you're saying you don't want to derail the conversation, but you're just repeating what we already know. Yes, you can send your kid to private school. Yes, you can homeschool your kid, but there's people that can't afford that option. And for those people, if you're telling them that they have to educate their kids, the only option is public school, and to do that, they have to have them vaccinated, it is a mandate. Now, let me see if we have any questions coming up. Okay, so you could move on to the next thing now.
Me?
Yeah.
Well,
There's no questions. I scoured for questions. There's no Persephone didn't put any questions here in the private chat. I don't see any here, and you're woefully unprepared for the moment.
Well, yes, I expected you to continue, but you didn't. So
I just wanted to address Diego.
You wanted, yes, okay. I'm glad you did.
We love Diego.
I want to keep saying, though, that saying that we are not for mandatory schooling, for example, could strike people wrong, right? Like, because in a representative republic, if you want to be free, you have to be educated. You have to be moral as well, and morality requires a certain kind of education, intelligence, the capacity to reason. So when we're not for mandatory education, but for private schooling, for people's sovereignty, we aren't anti-education. We're anti-state intervening in the educational process. One of the places that should remain free for human beings is their mind, and the educational institution is the forum of the mind, and so the state should not have control over it. What's happening, Michael? You look like you're going crazy.
Diego's driving me up a goddamn wall.
It's all right,
Diego. We love you, Diego, but you're not saying anything new to what we've already said. Like, I don't understand what your issue is. We know you don't have to send your kids to school. Like, why do you keep posting it? I don't get it. You're really, like, I don't know what's happening, like some kind of obsessive loop, but you keep posting that you don't have to send your kids to public school. We know. But you have to educate your kids, and not everyone can afford the other options.
And the reason they can't afford the other options, folks, is because of the monopoly of the public school system, which keeps prices high. Because of the teachers' unions, which are interested only in their benefits, not in the benefit being the children's benefits, keep prices high. If we privatized it, it would make all of those resources accessible to people. Manu says, I'm in college and learn more at home. Thank you, Manu, for that. What were you going to say, Michael? You look like you were chomping at the bit.
Because Diego, it says that an obsessive lube. No, it's not an obsessive lube. It's an obsessive loop. And the problem you're having is because I did not read what Greg posted. I read what I had on Grok, and I said what Greg posted confirmed it. And what I posted again said that you have to educate your kids, whether it be public school or private school or some other option, or homeschool. Go back and look at the tape. Please stop with this. Please, Diego. I'm begging you. Go ahead, Mark.
So it looks like Gavin Newsom is trying to, I guess, go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. And you know he's doing this because he's got his eye on the White House in 2028. If this guy gets elected, it will truly be the land of bizarro. I mean, we are truly in the twilight zone. After what this man has done to the economy and the political world of the greatest state, arguably, in the entire union, that witnesses an exodus of 350,000 people almost every year because of its anti-business, environmentalist insanity, anti-energy policies that are driving costs up for everybody. The highest state tax in the union, the highest energy costs in the union. I mean, a gallon of gas here, when I'm driving here, it's like $5 for a gallon of gas. When I go to any other state, I'm shocked to see it at $2.50. And there's a place right on the border with Arizona, Michael, right on the border, where it's $7 or $8 for a gallon of gas, because they know it's the last stop before you get into another town in Nevada. Some would not educate them. What is the state's role, if any, in addressing that abuse? Go ahead.
So
Michael.
Gary is talking about parents, and he says most parents would educate their children, but there's bad kids, and so some they would not educate them. And what's the state's role? The problem I have here with this is it's the idea somehow, and I'm not saying you're saying this, Gary, but if you've got parents that are that bad that they're not going to educate their kids, they've got bigger issues than just educating their kids. So you're going to put this mandate in place where the state's going to get involved. And in order to make sure that everybody's educating their kids according to state standards, the state has to create bureaucracies and investigators and everything else that are going to cause harms without fixing the problem that you're addressing. Right. So we're going to take away people's liberty. We're going to create bureaucracies that are going to have to be supported with tax dollars. And it's all because of the outlier parents who aren't going to educate their kids. And even if you make them send the kids to school, I mean, these parents, then are you going to make them have the kids do their homework? Are you going to make them spend time so the kids get proper grades? Where is it going to end? It's just not worth it. In a free society, there are going to be risks. That does not justify having the government use force against.
And Michael, even with all of these mandates in place, this still happens. There are still the outlier parents that don't care about their children's education.
Right.
And oftentimes those disruptive children are allowed into classrooms with children who really want to learn. And you were one of them, you know that. And they destroy the learning atmosphere, and they abuse the teachers. The teachers are legally prohibited from fighting back. And the number of videos I've seen where disruptive students are actually physically assaulting teachers are legion. So yeah, it's not like these kids are necessarily social, and they're not going to be made more social by being trapped in an environment and ruining other children's lives. The kids who want to learn, their lives are not sacrificable, and their learning should not be sacrificed for the kids who simply don't want to learn or come from an environment that won't and help them learn. As of today, on what issues are Republicans better or worse than Democrats on? That's a good question. That is a good question. I mean, if I were to say that the Republicans are better on some things, it would only be incrementally, Michael, because even the things that they're better on, they don't actually do. Right? So they're better on. So they're better.
Let's say taxes. I say they're better on taxes.
Right, but they're also doing it at the expense of driving up costs. So they don't cut government, but they'll drop taxes, which will bring in a little bit more revenue, but not enough to cover the debt. So,
but Democrats are going to drive up the debt too. So that's a wash. Right. So if that's a tie. So then I'd say Republicans are better on taxes, especially corporate taxes.
And deregulation. I would say deregulation, but it's not enough to make a significant difference. It is enough to give the Democrats ammunition to say, oh, all of the economic dislocations that you see happening now are a result of deregulation. So now we have to regulate more. We have a couple of commies in the comments, by the way, or at least one commie. So welcome, commies.
We've got multiple commies, but listen. Here's the thing for the commies. You're welcome here. We welcome you here. We welcome you here to ask your questions. We do not welcome you here to be rude and disruptive to the flow of the conversation or to insult the other people that are in the chat. But if you're here and you have questions, we're happy to answer them. This is a question.
So we know it's in your nature, commies, to be rude and disruptive. That's sort of who you are. But try to restrain that and try to be rational. If you want to have a rational conversation with us, you're more than welcome to have a rational conversation with us. If you want to be hooligans, we'll just kick you out or choke you out. One of the two. It doesn't matter. You deserve both.
I'm not choking anybody out.
Okay.
I've got a vast felony record, and I cannot afford to be heard threatening anybody, and nor would I ever carry out such a threat. Okay, so this is a question. I'm hoping that he will clarify this. It's Asa S says, what do you think of a system where colleges have their own entry-level exams, and once you pass, you can be admitted? In a perfect world, that would be entirely up to the college. Here's a question. You read, Mark. You're the official question
Well, you
reader.
were just reading one. Okay, so would Nikki Haley be a principled fit for the American Capitalist Party? So far that I've seen, no. Or would it be party pragmatism? What do you think of her versus Rand Paul, please?
Uh,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, I do not think she would be a principled fit for the American Capitalist Party. That would be an act of pragmatism on our part, unless she were to completely adopt Capitalist Party principles and stick to them through her tenure, which I doubt. She hasn't seemed to demonstrate that capacity through any part of her career, as far as I've seen. Rand Paul is an interesting possibility, except for his pro-life stance. His staunch pro-life stance, I think, puts him in opposition to a 100% free choice platform, which is what the Capitalist Party would stand for. What say you, Michael? You have something else?
I like Rand Paul on a lot of things. I think he can get partisan, but I think he's strong on the Constitution. So that's good. So, Mark, are you saying that if that somebody that's pro-life could not be in the American Capitalist Party? Because I wouldn't have thought that.
No, he can. But usually, because we're a 100% pro-choice platform, that means across the board. Pro-life people tend to think that puts them in fundamental opposition to us. Now, remember when Rand said she wasn't going to vote for Reagan because of his pro-life stance?
Yeah,
it's such a fundamental difference, a distinction between our view of rights and the view of rights that inspires somebody to be "quote unquote" pro-life, that it's hard for me to believe that they would be a good fundamental fit. He would have to say, personally, I'm pro-life, but what the federal government right now has no say so. I mean, I think they should enshrine pro-choice as part of the Constitution, but he would remain moot on it and just we already know that maybe not allow for federal funding of certain,
but he wouldn't support that anyways, and he would say that he's a believer in the Constitution, so he would say it's a state's issue. But it didn't seem to me like you really answered the question. So I'm going to ask you.
I think yes, a pro-life person could be a candidate, provided that wasn't the emphasis of their entire platform.
Okay.
So they would have to emphasize a completely the pro-choice. The pro-choice element of the Capitalist Party is across all aspects of human choice, including the right to a woman's own body, complete total body sovereignty and right to choose, all the way up until birth. So that is an extreme position respecting choice that people on the pro-life platform usually don't like. But there would be room for them because of our pro-choice stance across every other aspect of politics that they would agree with. So certainly, but the reason I seem to hedge is because it's such a fundamental issue. It's such a fundamental issue of rights that many people don't think they can get on board with the other aspects, even though there's no contradiction there.
See, I think that I could make an argument. Now, I don't agree with it, but I could make an argument for how somebody can be a pro-life candidate and still be defending individual rights. I mean,
Go ahead.
It comes down to it would take us way, way, way into the weeds that I don't want to go. I actually, though, said that one day next week we should actually have an episode devoted entirely to a discussion on rights. We could have Jim Valiant on. We can talk about the differences that we have, the similarities, whatever. I think it'd be a great discussion. But the bottom line is, if you think that a fetus is an actual human being, right, then you just have to argue it's a human being that has rights like any other, and you can go from there. I think that argument is problematic for a lot of reasons, mostly because even if you do say that it's an individual with rights, no individual has the rights to live inside of another human being, right? So I actually, that was Murray Rothbard's argument that has done a lot toward bringing me to the pro-choice side. But I do think that a person can consistently argue for rights and just come out differently. I think they'd be mistaken, but I don't think that fundamentally their view of rights would have to be wrong.
That's interesting. Enric says something interesting because I sort of like this formulation. Pro-life should be the life of the realized human being. I think that having a pro-choice platform like we do across all aspects of human life is what makes us the pro-life platform, pro-human life platform.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that includes choice with respect to abortion and total sovereignty for the woman's body. She does not give up her right to her own life, her own individual hopes, dreams, and aspirations because she happens to be carrying this biological entity in her. People like Zuby, who's now pretty much a cultural icon of the right, believes that at conception, this entity has not only full rights, but rights that supersede the woman. So she's a vessel essentially from conception on for the baby and nothing more. I find that abhorrent. But then again, he was born in Saudi Arabia and raised in that part of the world, and I think jives with that weird kind of religious conservatism. So did I finish the Gavin Newsom thing that he's sort of trying to go toe to toe with Trump? He's starting some anti-crime unit. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, he's a jackwagon. Let's be honest. It reminds me when John Kerry dressed up in hunting gear during his presidential run, or Mike Dukakis put on the helmet in the tank and whatever. Yeah, you're tough on crime, dude. Whatever. You know what I mean? It's
a show of, it's sort of like him cleaning up the streets of San Francisco right before the Chinese or the premier of China came there. And for effect, because this economic summit was happening, and so he wanted to present a certain face to the Chinese, to the Communist Party. But before that, it was a hellhole. I mean, literally, they have an app in San Francisco that maps out where human feces is, so you can avoid it. That's how bad it is. And yet he cleaned it up right before these people came to visit. So for effect, he does these things, like he starts these task forces that are going to go out there and get quote unquote tough on crime. But the laws are still more or less what they are. Those haven't changed. And so the laws are still going to be easy on criminals, and you'll probably still have the same problems you've always had. But he's making a big show, and he's standing toe-to-toe with the president, and seems to be the only Democrat who's doing that at this moment. Simple question to the Americans. Do you guys have a right to education in the Constitution? Sorry if you guys already talked about this. It's just a curiosity. Go ahead.
No, there's not a right to education in the federal constitution. In Connecticut, where I live, it's in the state constitution. I'd imagine other states have similar
in the state of California,
provisions, but I'm not entirely sure. Mark, how far of a drive is LA from San Diego?
It's about 3 hours.
Maybe when I'm in San Diego, if you're around, I'll drive out to LA and check you out.
Come on.
I'm thinking about it. We're going on the 16th. We're going to be there 5 days. So if you're in the area,
I don't know my schedule yet for October. So this is to Manu too, because if I once I get my schedule for October and know whether or not I'm able to go to Brazil, I'm gonna have Manu come to the convention there in Sao Paulo on me. She will be my special guest at the convention. Yeah, when I know my schedule, which will be by the end of the month for the block of October, I'll let you know what's going on. I'll let everybody know what's going on. This task force isn't going to do much, except it is for political effect, as everything that Gavin Newsom does is for political effect, folks. And if he gets the 20, what do you think will happen in the upcoming presidential election? Because Trump has been putting feelers out there for a third term, which is of course impossible according to the Constitution, but he has no regard for that. We've seen the true MAGAites have no regard for the Constitution as well. This could get interesting.
I have no idea what's going to happen with this next election. Ever since, to be perfectly honest with you, Trump came on the scene, I don't know what's happening. Like, it's just bonkers. I mean, Bernie Sanders almost got the nomination. Biden stepped in as an old man. And ended up winning the first time around. This time around, they got rid of him and put in Kamala. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea.
Folks, remember to like and subscribe to this station, please, and remember to share it across social media platforms. If you think that the message of liberty, human sovereignty, individual rights needs to get out there in the world and take a more prominent place on the political stage, please put this stuff out in the world. Let us combat the dominance of the collectivist, altruist axis out there, because they deserve to be combated. They deserve to be fought. We have a couple of altruist collectivists in the chat. I think they're sort of disappearing. Maybe we've disheartened them. But if they can come with civilized questions, I would be more than happy to answer any question they have. Opinion on
Absolutely.
policy. He seems pretty. I don't know Massie's foreign policy. Do you know Massie's foreign policy?
He's opposed to foreign aid. I don't know enough about him to know I know he doesn't take money from AIPAC, the Jewish lobby. So I don't know I know he's opposed to foreign aid, and I'm opposed to foreign aid, so I'm okay with that. I don't know that he's one of these guys that just hides his dislike for Israel behind being anti-foreign aid. I don't know enough about him. I know that there's a lot of libertarians out there going gaga over him.
That should be almost an indicator to stay away.
Well, the thing is, I just don't think it's wise to ever put politicians on a pedestal. Ever.
Agreed. Especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, I came close. Even though I disagreed with them on issues, in 2016, I really thought Ted Cruz was a principled guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew he was pro-Constitution. So I was really behind him. I read his book. I was just looking over it yesterday. And I was like, wow. When he didn't endorse Trump at the convention, I thought, this guy has got the cojones. This is a very principled guy. About 2 weeks, and he said, I would never, how am I going to back a guy who's attacked my wife and my father? I'd never do that. And then a couple of weeks later, he endorsed him. So I learned from that. No, I'm not getting behind a politician.
I agree. There was a time when politics was about principle, about 250 years ago, and it's been on a steady decline since the founding generation, folks. Did you know Bernstein wrote this? Pro-choice is pro-life, the philosophic basis of a woman's right to abortion.
I know that he's written on the topic. I don't know if I know about the specific pamphlet that Robert was referring
Let's
to.
see, Persephone, we're going to see if we can get Mr. Bernstein's permission to put that pamphlet on the Capitalist Corner for people to read, because I think that would be an interesting read. And if Ariana's anywhere in the chat, we should think about putting that also. We should put it up as reading material for the American Capitalist Party website. Hey, Mark, when are you going to read View from a Cage by Michael Liebowitz?
It's in the queue. He's an actor.
Fucker. So look, Katie, that is a legitimate question. I am going to read it probably in the summertime.
Oh my God.
Well, look, I'm doing research for this part that I'm doing now, which requires extensive reading, a lot of watching of historical stuff. So that's taking up quite a bit of my time, and I've had to pause my queue, Michael. And I was literally halfway through 4 other books in the pause of my queue. So that just moves your book a little bit further back. And I'm sorry about that. I really am, because it makes me appear sort of douchey, doesn't it? Does it make me appear douchey?
No, but you know what did?
Don't say. What?
Well, at the start of today's show, I put on the opening and you said, oh, what a surprise. But we used it yesterday, which let the entire audience know that you didn't watch yesterday.
Because I was working. I was working.
You were working for 24 hours. So let me just find out. Hold on. So I will not. Okay. None of us will.
No, let me tell you. Let me tell you what happened. I worked until midnight. The set was an hour and a half away from the apartment. So I got home about 1:30, quarter to 2, had to finish packing, had to wake up at 7 o'clock to get picked up for my flight, and taking care of my 19-year-old little boy at the same time, and making sure he gets on the flight and all of that stuff. So I was literally busy until I landed yesterday. at 5 o'clock p.m. Or 2 o'clock p.m. California time. So now take that
Let me
back.
ask you.
I noticed you look surprised that I worked until midnight, Michael. So you're
No,
like,
what I'm looking surprised at is all these posts that are on Twitter from you.
yes, I'm
from
sitting.
13 hours
I'm
ago.
sitting there on set posting. Yes, I can post in between takes. But that doesn't mean that I can sit there and watch a loud program on set. Their green room is on set.
13 hours ago, 14 hours. There's 16 hours ago. You're 18 hours ago, 20 hours ago, 19 hours ago, 20. You're posting and posting and posting on Twitter. Those are moments you could have at least checked out the beginning of the show.
Okay, well, I can't deny that. You're probably right. We could have checked out the beginning of the show. So,
yes, Manu, there's no headphones in the world. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Did not.
Okay.
Yes, Manu, I did not have headphones on the set, just so you know. And I did not have headphones that would have fit my
So somebody asked here, I got to find this. This is interesting.
On the plane.
You're going to like this, right?
Yes.
I asked Grok the other day, and I'm going to ask it again right now. The other day, somebody asked who would play me in the movie. And I asked the other day, and I forgot to tell you. I said, Grok, who would play me in the movie? The likely first choice to play Michael Liebowitz in a movie about his life would be one Mark Ross Pellegrino, according to Grok.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
I'm going to do it right now. Do it right now.
Kat Sterling says, it appears Massachusetts has a right to education as well. Massachusetts is also the top state in education. Well, they were the first state ever to have public education. It was mandatory in Massachusetts when it was a colony because they wanted the colonists all to what? Read the Bible. They wanted them literate so they could read the Bible. So that's always been the case with Massachusetts. I don't know how it's faring now. But at the time, it seemed like a good idea. Okay, Michael, you gave me an article from the Daily Economy, which I think is really good, and I think you should post it if you can on Twitter. Or can Persephone post this on here? Is there a way to post it on show notes here, Michael? All right, Michael.
What do you want me to post? I'm looking for something.
The article from the Daily Economy, the hard truth about the abolition of slavery.
I will post it. I've interviewed that guy before. He's great, Sean Malone. I will post it to X as soon as I'm done doing what I'm doing now.
And I think you should also post that interview that you did with him, because
that doesn't have anything to do with this topic, and that was a while back.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So this article is great, folks. I think young kids today, you should ask Grok right now when you're done asking it, whatever question you're asking it. How many people from the age of 15 to 24 believe that Europeans were the source and cause of slavery? That slavery was non-existent in the world except when Europeans started it in the 15th century. So, folks, this article is great. It says some things that I think are going to trigger a lot of young folks today who have been brought up to believe that, well, it was European colonialism that brought slavery into the world. Slavery was imposed by the Portuguese and the Spanish that invaded Mesoamerica, and they imposed it on the rest of the world. Of course, the Mayans and the Aztecs were enslaving the various tribes around them, as were the natives enslaving and engaging in ritual warfare in the natives around them. Africans were engaged in an inter-African slave trade and a sub-Saharan slave trade with the Arabs for 1,000 years before a single European set foot on that continent. It was everywhere, folks. It was everywhere. It was a ubiquitous institution. And one of the great things about the West that is often overlooked in the now mounting universal hatred for Western principles is that bringing reason to the concept of morality and politics, and even the Judeo-Christian, the Enlightenment version of the Judeo-Christian world, which was moved by the principles of reason, ended the institution of slavery. It was Western civilization that ended the institution of slavery, starting with England, and then America's great struggle over the paradoxes in its own principles and practices, which culminated in a civil war and a civil rights movement, and we are still struggling with today because in my view, most people have not understood the concept of rights or understood history properly the way they should. This article will certainly help them, though. I remember watching a 3-hour video on the history of slavery that blew my mind, Michael. Did you know, if you were to ask young kids today, how much of the transatlantic slave trade went to the United States of America, do you think most of them would say, oh, all of it went to America, most of it?
I do think so, but I mean, they would be neglecting an awful lot, especially the West Indies, Jamaica, Dominican
Brazil.
Republic, Haiti, Brazil, South America. Yeah. So in the conversations that I've had, and I've had these debates an awful lot. People tend to think, I remember watching Bill Maher one time, for instance, and somebody on there said that the United States started slavery. I want to say it was Ice Cube, but I'm not positive. But yeah, it's a big myth. And it reminds me of Stephen Hicks in his book, Explaining Postmodernism, when he talked about the critics of the West use the very standards of the West to criticize it. The West is where racism is on the run, sexism is on the run, living standards are up, but yet the West gets critiqued by its own principles. It's a really stupid and lazy thing to do. I'm actually reading, where is it? I don't have it. I'm actually reading right now Phil Magnus's awesome critique of the 1619 Project. And he's really dismantling much of the claims, especially as pertain to economics. In slavery, they cover an awful lot of.
Yeah, there's the popular myth that our economy was dependent on slave labor. Have you gotten into that section yet?
I have, because there's the new histories of capitalism is a school out there, and the guy name is Baptist. I can't remember his first name, but by doing some very iffy calculations and accounting, he says that 50% of the American economy was dependent on slavery, but between 1836, I think, and the start of the Civil War. The problem is he was counting at multiple occasions in the production line. So he
was double counting.
More than double counting. Yeah.
Triple counting.
It was actually 5%.
Yeah.
He also quoted these guys that did a previous study, and he said that they started, that their study supported what he was saying, and they came back and said, no, he's misusing our stats, and he just, he didn't even respond to them.
Yeah, so I remember that statistic as well. My dog has just broken out of his confines. Also, Enric was right. I think he said the transatlantic slave trade that went to the United States was like 11%. Yeah, it was somewhere in the 11% area. So pretty much everything that young folks are taught today from the anti-colonialist perspective or the Marxist point of view, pro-Marxist point of view, that it is anti-capitalist, tries to claim that America was based upon and built upon its economic foundations, literally raised upon the backs of slaves. This is absolutely untrue. It was the capitalist North that ended slavery and the feudalistic South that clung to it. Most of the philosophers that were actually pro-slavery and wound up in the mid-1800s coming up with philosophical justifications for slavery were horrifically anti-capitalist.
Very much so, yes.
Very anti-capitalist. And so have more in common with the folks perpetuating the myth that American capitalism was raised on the backs of slavery. It was not the case, folks. And read this article if you can from Daily Economy. It's a great article. Michael, I have to get my dog before he does something.
I posted the article to X. I did not yet post it.
Folks, I'll give Frankie some screen time just because those folks out there are screaming for Frankie screen time, and we only have 10 minutes left, so it'll come. Hold on.
All right. Well, I'm going to go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this article, and I'm also going to post it to Facebook, because I know not everybody is on X. So that's what I'm going to do. Robert Naser says forced labor cannot compete. That's well established by economists and evaded by Marxists, but that's only the start. The moral violation also results in poor businesses, poor trade, etc., etc. Mark, you have the dog. You want to introduce him?
Yes, everybody. This is Frankie. He's going to be 19 in October.
That's it?
Yes, he doesn't really like being in front of the camera that much. He's camera shy.
I don't know if that's true, man.
Okay. I guess you've only known him for a couple of years, but I've known him all his life, so you must know him better than I do.
No, but I know you, and I think you might be trying to hog him. You might be hogging him for yourself, is all I'm suggesting.
I am hogging him for myself. That's so true. I'm such a Frankie hog. This I found interesting, Michael. Wait, I have to find adjust this limit here. The Epoch Times, a new study highlights widespread spirituality among non-religious adults around the world. What did you think of this? And I also heard in one of the conservative outlets that young people are turning increasingly to Catholicism.
Well, might as well step right in it here, Mark. But I think it's very scary.
Are you saying that I'm asking you to step into a controversial topic that'll get us?
Sure, but in all fairness, I did lob it over the plate for you because I'm the one that sent it to you. But you do have editorial discretion on these things and the final say on which articles get shared. But no, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Somebody said to me yesterday, yeah, well, the founding fathers believed in God. Yeah, it was the 1700s. The 1700s, right? We didn't even yet have Darwin's theory of natural selection. But even with that, Thomas Paine wrote The Age of Reason and excoriated Christianity and demonstrated how bad it was. David Hume gave religion an absolute beating. Denise Diderot, same. So it was even known back then to a large extent. I remember reading Friedrich Nietzsche, and he said, can someone understand how this stuff is still believed in? And I really can't. It's not to say, look, this is Mark, like Mark always loves to say, this is my view. This is not the view of the party. People of all religions are welcome in the party as long as they adhere to the party's principles. But as a philosophic question, it scares me that so many people still believe stuff for which there is scant, if any, evidence, definitely no proof, because then that leads them into a religious ethic. Right? It doesn't lead into a naturalistic ethic, one that is actually good for human beings. It leads to the ethics of the various religions, or, even in the cases where they say, no, I'm spiritual, they end up adopting a religious variant of morality anyway. Selflessness,
which then puts them in untenable moral binds that when they get in positions of political power, they'll find themselves usually compromising with altruism, which will, in favor of those views, which will inevitably clash with the concept of individualism and rights. Yeah, Enric, the Epoch Times is a questionable site. It's a very, very conservative newspaper founded by I think Chinese dissidents, but they tend to say facts as facts mostly. In this case, I'm going to take this, Michael, as actually a sign that people are searching for what Rand understood, right? They're searching for guidance. They're searching for a map for reality. Like she says, philosophy, who needs it? Everyone, right? So these people are simply searching for meaning. They're searching for guidance in life. They're searching for a relationship to reality. It's just that they haven't found objectivism or rational philosophy yet. And so what holds a monopoly on worldviews and ethics? Well, still religion. It's a hard one to get to shake loose, folks, for many reasons. Jim, are you still in the business of kneeing people in the face? Because I have some people I would like kneed in the face. That comes from
Lee. That is to Jim Valiant. So if you want, Jim, you can answer the question in the chat. Teresa asked me who I would have play me in the movie. Charlize Theron. I think would do a good job. No, I don't know. I don't know who I would have
Vincent
play
D'Onofrio.
me in the movie. I'd go with Mark. I'd have to go with Mark Pellegrino. He knows me
D'Onofrio.
the best. Plus Mark's a great actor, and I think it could really boost his career if he were to play me.
I say
Let's be
Vincent
honest.
D'Onofrio.
No, we're not. I don't like Vincent D'Onofrio, so no.
He's a great actor. Or Mark.
I don't know. I didn't like him. I didn't like him in Mystic Pizza. I don't like him in the whatever the hell he was in there, Criminal Intent, whatever. No.
I thought he was very original in Criminal Intent. That's all.
No,
Look, when you're doing a procedural, it's very difficult to come at something originally, to do that kind of exposition and bring character and flavor to the piece, and he did. Sorry, me like Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he'd be great. What about Mark?
Okay.
Ruffalo?
No, it was actually suggested by Grok this time around. Christian Bale, Mark Wahlberg, and Joaquin Phoenix. They didn't mention you this time. They mentioned them last time.
Joaquin, no. Christian Bale, maybe Wahlberg, but he'd have to change his whole way of talking.
You're an actor. Actors
Wahlberg.
all do that. They
Wahlberg
change their
does
way
that.
of talking.
Yeah,
So you're saying that
Phoenix and Bale would.
So
Bale,
Wahlberg is
Bale
just
might.
one-dimensional. Are you going on the record saying Mark Wahlberg is a one-dimensional actor?
Never go on the record of saying that about Mark Wahlberg because he stabbed a man in the freaking eye at one time, and I think
Did he really?
Like 17 years old. Yeah, he's no shit. You don't
Back when he was Marky Mark.
He was a gnarly dude from Boston, and and if you watch his exercise videos, he's no shit.
So he's in good shape.
Yeah, you don't fuck around with Mark Wahlberg. So I leave Mark Wahlberg alone. He can do whatever he wants, and he's doing it well. I mean,
he's making a ton of money.
He's not just in acting, but he's an entrepreneurial guy with an entrepreneurial spirit. So I like that about him.
Speaking of making money, I did look into it, and from what I can tell, we do need 1,000 followers in order to get the cash. We are already there, though, as far as audience hours. We've got that. That's
okay,
we get the amount of listens. What we need now are 496 more subscribers. So please, folks, get out there and help us do it.
Yes, folks. So remember to like and subscribe before you leave, and turn this station on to your friends so they can like and subscribe to it as well. Hey, Lee actually has a great recommendation for someone to play you. Timothy Oliphant, great actor, good-looking dude, savvy. He's the guy.
So hold on. So because he's good looking, you think he'd do a good job playing me? Is that what you're saying?
No, he'd just make you more appealing.
I've never even heard of him.
Oh, you're crazy.
I'm crazy because I never heard of this guy?
Yes, of course.
What's he been in?
All right, watch Justified. If you like horror movies, watch The Crazies, because that's one of my favorite horror movies, and he's in it. He's also right now in Santa Clarita Diet. He's been in a billion things, but watch Justified. Watch Justified. And you'll see some good work by Walton Goggins as well in there. So, folks, we only have 2 minutes left. So if there's no more questions, I think we should have the capitalist thought for the day from Michael.
I don't know what's happening. It seems that there's some sort of an argument. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't know. They're flirting. I don't know what's going on. Race Jacobson says he thinks that we can get super chats with 500 subscriptions. Not according to what I'm seeing. Someone else told me that. I looked into it. It doesn't seem so. If you can find information that says we can, please let us know. Mark is going to give a great capitalist thought of the day.
All right, folks. Contrary to what the commies in our audience will tell you, capitalism saved the world from slavery. Contrary to what the communists out there in our chat will tell you, capitalism is one of the greatest civilizing agents of all time. Capitalism, folks, merely means that force has been eliminated from society. It's been marginalized. It's been subordinated to reason, and that trade, exchange between human beings on all levels, products, goods, services, ideas, is voluntary. Unlike the communist world, where you own nothing and you'll be happy about it, whether you like it or not. Capitalism is a world of complete and total human sovereignty. It is the world that we aspire to. And it's not an impossible thing to aspire to, folks. We came very close to it in the 18th century and in the 19th century with some obvious, terrible social contradictions and moral contradictions that were baked into our society already. But we can achieve complete and total freedom. Now, that doesn't look like the communist utopia where everybody's happy and everybody's... It doesn't have that vibe to it. You will rise or fall on your own merits, and you will be picked up by others who choose to. That is a completely free society. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean completely equal. It means equal before the laws of nature and men. And to me, that is a society that we should all strive for, because you have the potential to realize in a society like that all the potential within you, and you don't have that possibility in a society that does everything from the top down. So, folks, let's continue to advocate for capitalism. Let's continue to advocate for individual rights, free minds, free markets. You have the weekend to check your premises. Turn a commie or two, man. Get out there and fight the communists on social media. Turn them around to those who are susceptible to reason, and there are one or two who are questioning their premises. Get them to question their premises even more. Turn them on to this station, and if they're polite, we'll talk to them. If they're not, we'll kick them off. Or I have my way of dealing with them too, but you know, that's my thing. So, folks, like, subscribe, share. Until Monday, I bid you adieu.